Aloha, good afternoon. I'm back here again with Dr. Cassar. We're on the Big Island in Hawaii, and today is actually my last day here at the Terrain Modification Retreat. So I decided, instead of being interviewed, I thought we might just take some time to interview Dr. Cassar and ask him some questions for a change. He's always the one asking the questions, so it's time for him to answer some. So I've just got a few questions that I've thought of over the last few days, some that I've just seen a lot of people asking online, and some that are just interesting just to learn a little bit more about him. You know, we've all learnt a lot about his protocols, but sometimes we don't get to hear about him as a person. So,
big story there.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The first question I wanted to ask is about your first memory, or your earliest memory here on this physical plane, on this planet.
From which point in time?
Like your very first memory. So,
if I go pull back right now, I can remember a lot of things. My mom always used to say, "How do you remember that?" "Nah, there's no way." I said, "Mom, remember? You guys couldn't find me. It was snowing outside, and you thought I was lost in the snow. And I was underneath one of the beds sleeping, and you guys looked everywhere, and you couldn't find me. And I was like 2 years old."
wow.
So yeah. I remember that perfect, and you guys were crying, and I woke up, and I stayed under there because I was wondering, why are you guys crying? So I was spying in on them. I don't even know they were looking for me. So yeah, I have a lot of very early childhood memories. My childhood was great, though. It was. Mother, father, brothers, sisters, where we lived, just in nature.
Yeah.
I got a chance to really sort of flower in nature, so that's where I've always loved, is this level of authenticity, you know.
Yeah.
I've always had pigeons, I've always had birds, we used to raise mice and rats, and I used to go snake hunting every day, lizard hunting every day when I was a kid. So that was my sort of like my childhood of just really not really into foods or health or anything else, but just being a big kid.
But you were pretty much into the outdoors lifestyle.
Always.
Yeah.
Hiking.
Yeah.
We had guns. My best present, my dad knows, that he gave us was my brother and I a BB gun. Every day. He says, "You guys use that gift more than any other gift we've ever got you." So, you know, we all grow up, and sometimes we don't do the things we used to. So my life has changed like that probably, I'd say, at least 15 times, where I'm not who I am compared to who I am today from just previous. And you know, the people that actually have hung around me for a long time, they know that I don't really have my personality that I used to have before. I don't have my I guess my desires, my goals, or anything else that I used to be. I used to hunt and fish every weekend. I mean, I used to work out. I used to eat 2 pounds of meat a day. I was a heavy-duty meat eater, heavy-duty arguer, aggressive, and not bad ways, but just aggressive, because that's what, you know, I used to be. Now, I've noticed over just many, you know, because this is what it is, we all molt. And molting is where, you know, it's like a snake. It loses its skin and it's brand new again. So I've noticed that really parts of my life where I've evolved, I can say, have given me a new life. And this is what all these diets are, these changes in your life, because what it does is it gives you a new life. Like right now, I'm in a new life. I just moved to Hawaii here. I've never been away from my family before, because our family, everybody works in the family business. My brothers, my sisters, my children, most of them. And I do, of course. So, you know, it's such a nice thing to go ahead and be in family, but then again, you grow up when you leave the nest. And so 3 years has been big growth for me on this cycle, that's for sure.
All grown up now.
Yeah.
So, but what kind of food did you eat as a child? Like,
well, we ate everything and everything. Dad used to take us out for 10 hamburgers for $1. Okay. If we were good after church, we'd go to Burger King. And if we were really lucky during the week, we may go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, which they call KFC now. So
it
we
was
ate.
very standard.
We ate every night.
American.
Mom made us dinner. Okay, meat, potatoes. We're Maltese, so we eat a lot of fried foods, a lot of foods that really aren't that good for you. And over probably when I got about 10 years old, I started to get into the health kick for some reason.
See, that was my next question. You're reading my mind again, and that was like, what age did you start to like have the first thought of, okay, something's not quite right about what I'm eating? Or
Well, that was one part of it, but what I wanted to do at that point in time is I wanted to eat things that were good for my body, because I wanted to build muscles when I was a kid. Okay, I read the book. My dad bought me this book called The Education of a Bodybuilder by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I read that book like 5 times. Why? Is because that guy was sort of like my hero. I ate what he did. You know, he used to eat a big turkey at one time and ate 25 eggs a day. And so I tried to eat what I would call at that time super fuel, because I wanted to have more of a super fuel to feed my body that I want to turn into a more enhanced person. So I started getting into weight training, and that sort of got my, not so much eating because of toxicity or anything, because no, that's not good for you.
so you started on the weight training before you started to think about the food.
Oh yeah, that's how I got part of my sickness, is actually eating all that food. Eating all the meat, all the different types. I've probably had Joe Weider, and this is the old days, okay? Big can of protein powder. I'd go through that once a week. I'd be having 6 meals a day. Why? Because Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's what he does. So, you know, the moral of the story is we all need inspiration and guiding depending on what layer we're at, but sometimes that inspiration and guiding is not sometimes the best thing for you. But what it...
How do you feel about that protein powder now?
Well, I wouldn't touch it now, because what it did was gave me gallstones. What it did was give me immeasurable gas. Okay, I was potent. It gave me what I thought was going to be more muscles, and all it did was really clog me up. That was a big thing. But that took many years for me to figure that out. And I, then, really started getting into, because people go, well, where did you get into the health nut phase? And it's not health nut, it's just actually living with certain boundaries, trying to stay away from chemicals, synthetics, different types of pollutants and stuff. So I got more into that when I started to actually go to school to be a doctor. And I started to look into, because it's being presented to us, the problems in people, why they're getting diseases. Why are people getting diseases when we didn't get them 50 years ago? And that was in 1980.
So that's what I wanted to ask, was about your education. Just what type of education you had.
Well, the typical public school education, and I was dyslexic, and dyslexic people sometimes are not secure in their education, is because it's really hard. And not only was I dyslexic, but I wore braces for 7 years, and I was poisoned massively with different types of things that we were playing around with. Like, I used to break mercury thermometers, and the thermometers have mercury, and we'd break them, and we'd be playing with them and mixing them up, okay? I remember I went fishing every weekend, and we didn't have that much money back then. So what did I do? I went around the cars, and I pulled off some of the lead weights. Remember those weights they used to have on the side of the tire? And I'd take those weights, and I'd go to sometimes the tire place and get all the used ones, and I'd put them in one of my mom's pots and pans, and I'd put the fire on high, and I'd melt the lead, and I'd make my own lead weights. So I got a lot of dysfunction, not only physically, but mentally. My learning abilities were not the greatest. So there was a lot of tribulations I had to go with just to get C's in school. Okay, so really my education, where it came from, I'll tell you the truth, is once I got out of school and I actually really stopped practicing. because then I had the time to be able to actually, I was a professional student already. Now I'm going to learn the things that I feel that are going to not only help me, but it's going to connect my dots to be able to see the bigger picture. Instead of going to school, and sometimes you're just learning a lot of dogma. You're learning a lot of hypotheoretical things because nobody knows how the human body works. We have certain types of ideas, but the body is very genius. It's what I found out over 55 years old here. I was a graduate as a doctor, 22 years old, the earliest graduate ever out of the school. And, because, let me tell you, my father and mother pushed me because they wanted their children smart. Why? Is because they didn't want to have us fall into the same position as they did with a education. My father graduated college from night school. He wanted us to go ahead and have it easier. So we always did summer school. We always did extra credits. We had to. Dad made us. We had to learn a musical instrument. Whatever you wanted to play, I want you to do that an hour a day. And when you're done with that, I want you to do your homework. And when you're done with that, then you can go out and play.
But it seems that you did learn a lot when you left school.
That's where I basically got most of my knowledge, is when I needed it myself. See, I got into a massive car accident in 1997. It's actually when I stopped practice. I graduated in 1984.
So how old were you in 97?
1997, let's see, born in 61, so 71, 81, 91. I was almost 40 years old.
Yeah, 37 roughly.
And
okay.
I got severely disabled in an auto accident. I was driving a car called a 930 Turbo Porsche, one of those little small Porsches with the big wheels with the whale's tail on the back.
Yeah.
And that car's, first gear 60, second gear 90. I loved it. It was a little race car. And, getting in an accident with that car, though, wasn't the best thing with me, because what happened was I got rear-ended from behind, and I got pushed into a cement wall. And I broke my wrist, shattered my navicular bone, so I had a cast on that for 6 months. And of course, being a doctor of chiropractic, you're out of business. I broke my nose. I've had 3 surgeries on my nose. It's still crooked right now because I broke it against the windshield. I broke my cheek. I chipped my teeth. Okay. Separated 4 ribs here, my cartilage. Talk about breathing, not being able to breathe well for about 6 months. Try about sleeping. Forget breathing. And I pulled what's called a ulnar nerve right off the bone. There's a nerve that goes on your elbow, and it made me so I couldn't do a push-up for 2 years because the elbow has a nerve back here, like the funny bone nerve. Okay? And every time I moved my elbow, it grabbed me like this. And I popped my tendon, called the bicep tendon, right off the tendon head. So I was messed up. Pull my shoulder behind here. Are you kidding? Versus, of course, now I can grab my hands like this and really do what I couldn't do when I was 18 years old.
So at this stage, you've been like training, strength training, weight training for like 20 years.
Super stiff, bigger
when you
muscles.
had this accident, but had you changed your diet then? Or were you still like around 40?
Well, this is what I started to do. Once I figured out that pork was not good for me, is because it wasn't good for muscle building. Very low level meat, it's full of parasites, you gotta overcook it, you gotta do whatever you have to do to prepare it, because that's what everybody says. Make sure you cook that pork good. Why? Because it's full of stuff you don't wanna have. So I stopped eating pork first. And because I didn't want to eat that because it's not good for my muscle building, or for my bodybuilding, or for my training or whatever. Then I went to beef, and I got rid of beef. Okay, because for some odd reason, intuitively, I just remember a lot of this was me being pushed from outside forces to be able to really guide me to step up to the next layer of consciousness, which is something you can't talk about, but awareness. So I went from pork, I went to beef, I went to chicken, okay, but I still ate Carl's Jr. chicken sandwiches, okay. I wasn't in the layers that I was. We didn't even hear GMOs back then. In fact, I went to Europe and Germany, and it said on all the windows, no GMO here, no GM here is what it said. And I'm thinking, GM, the only GM I know is General Motors.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, they don't sell General Motors here? Okay, but this is a store. And this is how unawake, okay, the United States is compared to some of these European countries that really, really have been fighting the system here for a long time. And America is pretty gullible.
But this is still, at 40, you're still...
I'm eating healthier food,
Yeah.
but I'm not really on the kick yet
Yeah.
because I didn't have the push yet to figure out how to regenerate myself that was unregenerationable. I had two. The last injury I had was my low back, which I prolapsed. Prolapse means that you have an annulus disc. It's called a piece of sort of like almost like a piece of cartilage it is in between each of the vertebrae. And this is like your shock absorber, and it's full of fluid, and it's really hard. But the inside's like a jelly-filled donut. And what I did was I cracked my disc, and what it did was this. It squirted all the jelly out of the inner of the disc into my nerve root, not on one level, but two levels, L4, L5, and L5S1, which are the two lowest levels of your spine. And so this disabled me. Forget this.
Yeah.
Couldn't
What's
walk,
the back?
crooked,
Yeah.
put my shoes on. How about even get off the toilet with number two? I was disabled. I used to water ski, snow ski, horseback ride, motorcycle ride, whatever athletics, run. Could do nothing. Forget about having sex. Man, I was married. Okay? Children. Everything just got thrown upside down. So that's when my life turned around and everything went down for the way. I got a divorce. I couldn't provide anymore, right?
Yeah.
In the way I could before, which just basically changed a lot of dynamics. I had a lot of emotional problems because I have a big practice, and I have all this knot I got to figure out. We own the building. I have all these complications. I got to make sure we pay rent, but I'm not there, and if I'm not there, it won't work.
You said you were seeing like 100 patients a day?
No, not 100. I used to see like about 40 people a day on a good day, and on a real good day, I'd see up to 50 people a day, and on a real low day, I'd see about 27 to 30. And that's not just seeing patients, that's seeing 3 or 4 everyday new patients.
Yeah.
That's doing new patients the next day, consultations on what's going on. Not only that, I used to call every person back that was a new patient. How you doing, Miss McGillicuddy? Just checking on you tonight.
That's good service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was also into the referral system. You know, we're also into doing things up and above what you're supposed to do. It's only because you got to win people over. And learning health, you have to learn from somebody. So you have to feel good about at least that person in some degree. So I tried to make relationships with patients because most patients that I saw, they were hanging with me for 3 to 4 to 5 months. So because I started, this is one of the diets I used to, I was into having people change their lives, losing weight. This was the big diet back then when I was a doctor, okay? I used to have people do 2 Slim Fast shakes a day. Remember Slim Fast?
Yeah.
That stuff is not the greatest materials, full of sugar, okay? But this was the diet I did have people do for the first month. And they trusted me because I said, look, your back, your neck, unless you lose 25 pounds, it's not happening. You got a knee problem, you got all that extra weight. It's like carrying a 25-pound backpack on your back. So I said, we need to put you on a diet. Not raw food, not live food, not do this, do that. No, this was old school. So you used to have people do 2 Slim Fast shakes a day and have a microwave dinner called a healthy choice meal. Pick and choose. And that was it. And drink yourself about 75 ounces of liquid and water a day. And people would lose 10, 15 pounds a month just by doing it because you're eating McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
You're eating Taco Bell every day.
Yeah.
You're not having good food at all. So this was a step up from the food that you were having before. So my resurrection for myself was when nothing was helping me.
So then from 40 onwards you started to evolve.
Well, I'll tell you this. It took me about 4 or so years for me to say, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not getting back surgery. I'm not getting another cortisone injection, which I had about $60,000 in medical bills. Had 10 MRIs. Okay, I'm done with you guys. Okay, you want to do a laminectomy? And of course, emergency medicine is where it's at. saved my life a few times.
Yeah.
But curative medicine is not the greatest. So what I wanted to do was regenerate myself, and I know that anything in the real system would not do that. Anything that's traditional would not help me because I already tried everything. Remember, cortisone injections, 3 of them in a week, doing hundreds of massages, all these different things, which is just typical physical therapy. Physical therapy, of course, all the time. So what I did was started digging deeper into a lot of different alternative things that were not on the market, and I literally spent millions of dollars, okay? At that time, I had a good income, and I had to figure out myself, and so talking over a 10-year period, a little bit here and a little bit there, and you're buying this, buying that, and trying this and trying that, and you know that doesn't go too far. So
but did you always have this scientific
always.
type of mind? Like
No,
I see when you get something, then you have to dissect it.
I
and you have to
optimize
test it and try it.
Yeah, I try to optimize everything. See, it's not that I'm such an inventor. I invented a lot of stuff too. But what I like to do is take your invention and then apply it better.
Yeah.
Apply it in different directions in different areas, okay? So that's been my forte, is to take other information and let's see if we can not just prove its efficacy, its truth, but let's see if we can advance it. And or let's see if we can put it in a different direction, because if it's a real truth, it should work over here too.
Yeah.
So these are all the different experimental layers that I had to do on myself.
Yeah.
And once I found out that a lot of these things that I've been doing, and let me tell you, this is a work in progress. What I did back then, I don't do at all today. And I did get sick many times trying to, remember, I got into parasitology after Dr. Chiropractic. I thought parasites were everything. Why? Is because that's one of the things I was doing, was killing my parasites. I wasn't into eating such a good food. But I found out that the pork, remember, was full of parasites, and I had the worst stomach problems for about 3 years, so I was working on this on the side. It wasn't my debilitated injury, my physical injury. No, I had stomach problems. From all the bodybuilding foods, from all the garbage foods, from just whatever I was putting in me all day. I used to put a little, like a throat lozenge in my mouth all day long that was full of sugar and sometimes all different things. Well, I had to have clean breath. I'm hugging patients all day long. So, you know, this road, like I said, has been an unfolding road. And my story is a good story only to tell you that where we're at today is many years of trial and error to not only help myself repair myself, but not only repair it, I'm better than I used to be when I was 18. I can do the splits on the ground. I can do one-handed handstands.
I've seen it, yeah. You can.
I'm just...
It's incredible, like the flexibility, considering that it's, what, only 14 years since you've had that serious accident.
Well, the 14 years, and I didn't do that much about it 4 years. I did the traditional methods.
Yeah.
Okay, then what I did was I went to looking into deeper ideas. I got into parasites, like I said, and I started to actually kill things. I'm taking all these different poisons, doing whatever it took. I'm reading literature and seeing how do I get rid of the parasites inside me. So, and how do I know I have parasites? It's because I finally saw one. And once you see one, then you start connecting the dots together. And that was my epiphany, and that was sort of like a door opening to me.
So when we modify the terrain, we don't kill them all. We know that. We're
Well, what you're doing
modifying
is
the terrain that they're in.
You're not poisoning them. That's the thing. What you're doing is you're changing the terrain, and they just basically don't have the anchor to live inside your nurturing energy field now, because your energy field now has changed, and they thrive in a certain what you can call, I call it the AM broadband of the radio. You got FM and you got shortwave. They live in AM.
Yeah.
So if we want to get healthy, what did we have? All we have to do is, well, change to FM, but how do we get there? And that's been my work for about 10 years, is how to change our body's terrain to be able to make it so whatever lives inside us at the terrain we choose will live, the parasite, the microbe, or the creature will live at the terrain that you become. So if your body's dirty, then all these microbes that live inside you are actually negative towards you. And if your body's really clean, the microbes that live inside you are your saviors. They help you clean. They keep you clean. They keep you going. So, just to sort of tie this other piece up, I went to medical school, became a doctor of chiropractic, Okay, I learned zoology, I learned fish, everything. I loved nature. I got into parasites, okay, after I started treating people, because that was most people's problems I was seeing. Okay, their back problems, their headache problems, their physical, their mental, it's all parasites. Then I started, actually, like I said, I started killing the things and finding out, well, you know, this isn't the greatest to do because I had too much turbulence. So then I found out that the parasites that live in the body only live in the body because of our toxicity level, because of a lot of different types. And this is where terrain modification came in. So you have the physical parasites, and what makes the physical parasites live? If we just take out the things that actually make the physical parasites live without killing them, then they'll just leave you. And if we accumulate the things that actually the parasites live in, then we'll accumulate them. So this was this idea that's sort of taken 10 years to sort of make sense. And not only that, practice it, and then seeing patients, different people, and having them try these different protocols, and let's see what happens. We'll twist it around and switch it around if we need to, but if not, let's see how it works at this time.
Okay, so I've got more questions from you, but we're just going to take a few-minute break.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Guys, welcome back. So we were just connecting the dots here, talking about terrain modification, and you were telling us on the last part of the story with regards to...
Well, the idea is that, you know, before I used to kill things, parasites, okay? If it moves, we can kill it. If we see it, like a hunter, we can kill it. And that was smart for me because let me tell you, I extrapolated pieces of the rope parasite out of me this big, and people could not believe that that came out inside me. I showed my dad and my mom and everybody, said, look at this creature that came out of me. Ah, it's not real. That's food. Shaking it. That's a snake. Okay,
but many of them will remain inside of us. Not many of them, but some of them will. We are not going to destroy them all.
Well, we're not talking about destroying. I sort of took that out of my vocabulary.
Okay.
So what we're doing is really, see, once you find out, so all yeast, mold, fungus, which is body fat, candida, when our bellies extend out like this, okay, yeah, we have body fat on the outside. That's the yeast, mold, and fungus, okay? But what lives underneath in the tissues, okay, and in your intestinal tract is the visual creatures. And so they live, remember, because we have a vibration to let them live. We feed these parasites that live inside us, and people don't even really sort of get it. They go, I don't have any parasites. I went to the doctor. Oh, I don't have any heavy metals in my body. I went to the doctor and they did a blood test. I said, they're not doing it right. First of all, most people's feces, just so you know, are made up of about 1/3 parasites, eggs, all different types of creatures that don't look like anything, just a big ball of mush with your feces. So the idea of connecting the dots together was that I used to kill everything. Like I said, I was a hunter. And then once I got smart enough to say that, you know what, I've gotten sick so many times here, and it's very effective. Okay, and I started working with patients and different people, and we got a lot of good effects, but it was also very risky for certain people that were very sensitive to certain types of poisons. I was taking Cascara sagrada, turkey rhubarb, drinking silver, using all these different types of registered, really herbal poisons, and taking them in high concentrations. So then once I sort of got away from that, because I wasn't smart, I said, you know what? What makes these parasites live? It's not just food. It's not just food, because you can go vegetarian and all of a sudden you may lose 15, 20 pounds, but you're 50 pounds overweight, but how come you can't lose the other 30? Is because of the toxicity level now that I got into. Then I started studying toxicology. So I went from chiropractic, neuromusculoskeletal, and that's you're talking about a full care physician there. We even go to graduate, you deliver babies, you do prostate exam, you look into vaginas, you're here to look at and learn everything, okay? Now, the idea is that once we sort of understand that parasites come in our body because of our toxicity load, because of our contaminant load, because our bodies are dehydrated, because we've lost our minerals, okay, just like a plant losing its minerals, and it gets pests. Okay, so, but if the plant has minerals and the plant's strong, it doesn't need pesticides, insecticides, or herbicides because the plant is strong and the parasites can't get to it. So this was like an epiphany in my head.
So if I, for example, if I haven't eaten meat for 7 years now,
Still have the parasites
okay,
inside you.
even with all of the cleaning, detoxing.
This is how it works. Let's say the tapeworm grows 1 foot a year. If you eat meat, you got the tapeworm. Beef tapeworm, the pork tapeworm, the fish tapeworm. You don't even have to eat meat, like I said. You could get infected by some of their eggs because your vibration over here, your contaminant level, opens the door up to let them come in. So, 1 foot a year these tapeworms grow. And after 20 years, they grow 20 feet. All you got to do is look it up and see that it grows a foot a year, about a size of a quarter, 50-cent piece every month. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got yourself now, when you start to diet and change your vibration, you start to lose contaminants. You start to lose certain types of things in your body that actually the parasites lived in. You started putting more water in your system, more minerals. You started not feeding them as much. So what happens is they don't die. They just break off some of their pieces, and that's what you see in your stool. The tapeworms, remember, they grab onto a part of your intestinal tract, and they do what? They're blood suckers. They drink blood.
But if they're meat parasites and I'm not feeding them meat anymore.
They're still drinking your blood is because they're in your body, but they're not the type of parasites called the Ascaris lumbricoides, which is a roundworm, which most people have a handful this big because they're eating carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Now, yeast, mold, and fungus are these little tiny, tiny things you got to look on a microscope because they're microscopic, so you need a microscope, and they eat sugar. So you have all these different layers of parasites. Meat parasites, you have parasites that process cooked foods, you have parasites that process sugars, you have parasites that process tobacco or nicotine, parasites that process alcohol. I don't care what it is, all these different creatures actually help us process our food.
So I guess my question is it possible or is it necessary to remove them all?
I would say that if this definition of a parasite means no benefit to the host, I would think it would be a good benefit to actually pass them out of you with love. Get rid of them in a good way. You can't try to poison them. Now, if it's a parasite, it's a parasitic relationship, isn't it? Parasitic relationship
but some
means
of them do.
That's symbiotic you're talking about.
Yeah.
A symbiotic relationship are the microbes that are good ones. There's good microbes and there's bad microbes. There are no good parasites. Because remember, what's the definition? No benefit to the host. A symbiotic
means they're benefiting each other.
It's a cool relationship, like a relationship you'd have with anything, an animal or a person. If it's symbiotic, great. If not, what do? Disillusion. Okay, so are these parasites doing you a favor? They are for the time being until you clean up your act. And then at that time, you're not feeding them anymore, so they feed off of you. Oh, now you got problems. You went vegetarian, let's say, you stopped eating meat. I'm weak. Of course you are, because you're not feeding your creatures, your babies, your children. So this is a big problem where a lot of people then they go back to meat. Oh, my doctor says I told you so.
Yes.
It's because they're not doing the protocols correctly. So that's why a lot of the philosophy on Earth Academy is to be able to learn the protocols, common sense protocols. So we have parasites, they eat certain things. They live in certain types of plugged bodies. They live in bodies that are demineralized. They live in people that live in the dark. Okay, they live in a certain terrain. So what do? We manipulate the terrains, and that's terrain modification. Heavy metals, all different contaminants. We have a water area where we drink and learn how to go ahead and drink water, and what kind of water to drink. Not tap water, not bottled water if you can. Why? It's because you need either distilled water, which is what we use at the retreats here, and you know how effective that is the best water anybody can use as their base, and you can add anything you want to it, but it's pure, clean water. Distilled water is only H2O with nothing else in it. No minerals, no contaminants, no fluoride or anything.
Right. So we touched on it briefly, but I know that I reached sort of like a different level of consciousness. We won't speak about that as a word, but when I stopped eating meat and changed into a plant-based diet, when did this start to happen for you? Because I know you felt the huge benefits.
I-
The mind opens
yeah.
up. Not only does your body get lighter, your mind gets lighter, the fog sort of disappears, you can think clearer. It's
The problem is sometimes thinking clear means I start to see the truth
Yeah.
around my life I didn't like. The truth that I start to see in the world that's what's wrong. Like you're from Australia, WTF, mate.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you don't know what that
nearly
means,
got it that time.
WTF, mate. I'm listening to her accent. I'm getting it. She stays in another 6 months. How do you say water? Water.
Water.
Water, see? So, what was the question again?
So just about your state of mind.
Oh,
like
yeah.
When you
The idea is that once you start eating less dense, contaminated food, your vibration, your shutters start to open up and you get more photonic light, which is intelligence, but you don't really notice that, is because it'll take a little time for your mind to catch up to the space that's finally it's got. So now, once you get away from flesh, that's why I like people to go on a 180-day non-flesh diet, non-flesh, plant-based. I still tell people that you can have fertile eggs, you can have raw cheese and so forth in between. But once you make space, this vibration of yourself raises itself out to here. Now you've got all this hard drive space that now you need to fill the information in your mind why you now are going to stay in this space. If not, then you go back to eating hamburgers, you go back to eating pork rib spare ribs, you go back to eating fried foods, go back to eating processed foods, and see where you like it. But what happens is most people, they get out to this layer here, and if they're smart, they start watching documentaries, like, where does my food come from? And all of a sudden you go, I'm in the right layer. I couldn't go back to that other layer if I wanted to. So my mind was interested now in different things. It became more aware of nature. It didn't want to destroy it anymore. It was sort of a weird thing. I can't hurt things before, and before I was a hunter.
Yeah.
I catch a mouse, I just drown them.
Yeah.
Okay, I see a bird when I was a kid. Let me see if I can shoot that thing. I'm not going to even eat it. Okay, now I have such a connection that I found out. This is the biggest thing. Not only am I more aware and more feeling, called cessation of my feelings, I feel more complete, but I have such a beautiful connection to the spirit of nature, which is a deep word. I feel the wind now.
And I've seen that, the way you interact with the animals. It's incredible, like the connection that you have with them.
I love my connection now because they feel, see, the animals feel your connection.
They do.
When you're actually sort of like this lower vibration, you are being sensed now as a predator. Instead of maybe a lion walking in the forest, the non-predators sense the predator. But if a deer walks through with, let's say, a piggy, they're both, whatever, they're eating vegetables, whatever, rabbits, they just look at each other because they're all part of the same cult. So my self changed a lot. What I would say my unknown addictions that I had, eating 6 times a day. Remember, I trained myself because Arnold's book said, isn't it so? And so I wanted to do nothing more than do what my mind says. I have to first experiment first and see how this works. And then once I'm experimenting it, of course, I need another buddy to bounce this off of. So this is the same with terrain modification, or the same with actually doing any of these types of revamping of your nervous system, revamping of your lifestyle, is you should do it with your family or do it with someone else. If not, what happened to me, I'll tell you, is not only the good things that happened to me, but also, remember, I had changes in my relationships. Why? Is because everybody around me didn't change with my energy bracket, so I didn't have that much in common anymore.
Yeah.
And everything I want to talk to them about, they're not interested. And I'm not interested to listen about all that other drama either.
I know what that feels like. So for people who are just beginning on the journey, and you come across a lot of them, and I do too, like, what would you say is a great first step? It's so hard when you're at the beginning and you don't know where to start, and you present a lot of information. So I know sometimes people just say, well, where's a simple place that I can start?
There's over 30 departments of terrain modification, and what you have to do is really understand the simplest things to do are the things that you should be doing first, which is hydrating yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, the number one disease on this whole planet, number one,
Dehydration.
is chronic dehydration.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much dehydration. You got 3 days of no water, and you pretty much die. 30 days of food, and 3 minutes of no air. But if you don't have water, and your body is a water machine, that was one of my biggest epiphanies too.
Yeah.
That food is not what you think. Okay, cooked food is for your emotional body. It took me lots of connections. My subtle body is very sensitive now, so I sense interactions within my other parts of myself that actually either say yay or nay to the area that I'm actually integrating with. So it's not like I'm on my own anymore. My system now has more what I call oscillating systems working with each other harmonically. So each of the systems actually keeps each of the systems and then trains them to work together. So in order for me to really get to that layer, it took years. And part of the big picture that I know is that we have lots of information. And so what I have is I have lots of, we first started with terrain modification with just 12 different departments. I'm up to 30 now. But water is liquid, and you have 18 gallons of water in your body. This machine is just water. It's a water bottle. And so if that's the case, then how do you take care of it? Well, first of all, you clean it with water, just like you clean your laundry, just like you clean your dishes, just like you water your plants and everything else. Without water, you can't do anything. And I call this the elixir of life if you use the correct water. Okay? Because you'd asked me about this before. You can't drink tap water. You have to have a source of water that you can get that's really good, or make it yourself like we do here. It's very simple.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people don't have not only a good source of water, okay, but even if they do, they don't drink it.
No, they'll just go to the tap and fill their glass and...
Yeah, I have many friends, you know, they say, oh, I really drink water. I have water I mix with my coffee.
Yeah.
I got water I mix with my whatever I mix with such and such, but I don't drink any water. I don't like it. Okay. So remember, what you don't like, you'll find out as you start to clean yourself.
Probably what you need.
Is what you need. Okay.
Often I think you don't like it, possibly because the parasites don't like it.
Yeah, give me a hug. Okay, these ideas, okay, once you find out your body is a container, it's called the flesh garment. This machine here holds your galaxy, and whatever you accumulate opens the door up to let other creatures come into your galaxy. And you don't go ahead and try to cut the lawn if you don't want it to grow. Oh, you're going to do parasite cleanses? No, you make sure that the lawn's not going to grow because it needs 3 things to survive. It needs sunlight, it needs water, and at least 15 minerals. And if you don't want your parasites to survive, that's what the terrain modification's about. You know, they don't like water because they don't like you being liquid. They want you to be all stuck up and clogged. And how do you know if you're clogged? Take your clothes off in the mirror and look.
Have a good look.
Remember, it's not what you think. And don't think that, you know, it's a hopeless... I've worked with people that were 250 pounds overweight, and in their mind, all they need is some inspiration. That's it. If these people can do it, okay, inspiration is what they need. Remember, your parasites inside yourself control your nervous system. They're mind controlling. They control your hunger. They control your sexuality a lot of times. They control your thoughts. They control your feelings. So this is a very important part of yourself. You want to get back to you. It's like opening up the door when you actually change your diet, because you're going to start liquefying yourself. So I'm going to open up all the windows. I'm going to go ahead and take my spray machine and I'm going to start spraying off all the walls and stuff, and I'm going to repaint, put new carpet in. It's a remodel. And as long as you understand and know that you're on the right track, and others have already done this previously and had excellent results, all you have to say is, if I can get half of those results, I'll be happy. And what I really like about Melody here is she's at that point now where she's connecting the dots, and it's making way more sense versus all this dysfunctional information that everybody's trying to sell you something, or you need this and you don't have that. What are you doing this for? Oh, that's not good for you. Oh, the paleo diet. Okay.
There's a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really wanted to say about you, is that it amazes me how many times you repeat things over and over and over and over again, all just for the greater good of people, to learn, no other reason. I've seen you repeat things so many times.
If not, it's insanity.
And, you know, you really don't need to have, you know, these income from these products or from these videos that you put out. You do it because you want to help people change their lives.
It's my program now.
Yeah.
It actually, the best feeling, people say, Robert, what makes you feel good? When people feel good, that's what makes me feel good. See, I'm unneedy now. That's the best thing about this diet too, is I'm not needy like I used to be in many ways. I've lost my neediness. So I can give out some of what used to take a lot of time because I was the needy one. I wanted to control everything. I like everybody's opinions because everybody has nectar to share. That's what I've learned over time. I don't care if you're a street side bum, you're a drunk, okay, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. Drug addict, movie star, a doctor, a person who cleans toilets. Everybody's got nectar to share. And not only that, once you sort of study the world, you'll find out, because I've done a lot of traveling around the world, you'll find out that there's 3 words that everybody only wants. That's it. It took a long time to figure this out. Everybody wants their health. Just 3 words. Their health. You don't have your health, you've got nothing. Nothing. All the money, this, that, no, nothing. They want their health and wealth, and it's not money. Wealth is information, it's awareness, so I can navigate, so I can get healthy. Remember, health is because you have wealth. Wealth is because you have information that gives you health. So you have health, wealth, and what happens when you get those 2? You get happy.
Happiness, yeah.
Happiness is what everybody wants. Everybody wants health, and everybody wants wealth. And so when you get these 3 words together again now, and so you have health, wealth, happiness, and when you put all 3 of those together, I call them the triality of health, wealth, and happiness, which turns into evolution, an evolution of yourself that you didn't even know was actually sitting right there, the healthy self, the aware self, the inspirational self. And this is where I see her. She goes, who wants to start this? You want to start this? I said, no, it's your show. I want her to step up, and she's stepping up. We've done several videos. We do lots of things that basically, not only does it help me, because someone pushed me to do this. Okay, they said, Robert, you have good skills to inspire people. Why don't you? I said, I don't like the camera. I think it's a one-eyed monster. Yes, you are, but I'm used to you now. And I'm looking at you, okay? And I'm looking at you through this camera. And for me, I couldn't even ever speak in front of anybody.
It was the same.
Heart, there's no way. Dr. Cassar, you want to say a few words? Not really. Okay, so now, since I've changed my diet, since I've had my clarity, what makes me feel good is when, like I said, when others change their lives at their own accord by getting the right choices. It's not information only, it's choices that now you need to step forward, or you need to step forward, or I need to step forward and have a reasonable and logical mind to be able to say, I'm going to try that, not for a week, for 180 days, or 6 months, 3 months. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, okay, now I've done all these things, I'm going to twist this and push this out and pull this in, and it's a work in progress. You've been now vegetarian for how long?
Oh, probably around 10 years.
Yowza. Yowza. Beautiful.
So if we go back to, say, like 40, when around the accident time, until now you're, what, 50?
55 biological age is
roughly,
what I
yeah.
call myself, yeah.
So 15 years, and you've probably done about, what, 1,500 hours of body work, would you say, roughly?
At least.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
even after all of that body work and diet and change, do you believe you still have some parasites?
I don't have the tapeworm type and blood-sucking parasites anymore, because I'll tell you why I know. Not only did I excrete them for years, it's not just 1 or 2, they come up for years, because you have to change your vibratory tone, and as you change your tone, they leave you as you raise. But Say the question again. I wanted to tell you something, but I don't want to digress.
So with like 15 years, you've done like 1,500 hours of body work, and I'm just interested because not many people have done that much work on themselves. Do you believe that you still have?
Yes, I'll tell you. Okay, so the types of parasites I have are the ones that I colonize now.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've got my heavy metals down pretty decent, and I had a huge amount of lead poisoning, nickel poisoning, insecticide, or all different types of poisonings that I had from just being normal. So if I eat a bunch of sugar, I don't care what kind of sugar it is, I will start gaining yeast, mold, and fungus. People say, how do you get those veins? Like, how do you get your stomach muscles to stick out? It's because that I don't have certain things that actually feed certain types of creatures. Is because once I got them down to a tone now, they don't call for me to feed them sugar. In fact, I don't even like sugar. Yeast, mold, fungus, candida, or parasites. I don't have the salivation anymore when I smell meat. That's when you know you've lost most of your blood-sucking parasites, which basically, that's how you got them, from flesh. And they know they're going to get fed. So once you go vegetarian, let's say, and you don't really work on getting out heavy metal poisoning, and you're not doing any of that reduction of contaminants, then what you've done now is stop feeding your blood-sucking parasites. And this is important for people to know. Where are they going to get their food now? Remember, they're on your intestinal tract, and they're mama, okay, and they're sucking your blood, and then not only that, remember, everything that eats does what? Poops, urinates, feces, and so they poop inside you. So what they do is they start drawing you down and start making you weak. Oh, did it make me weak? I didn't understand a lot of these pieces. So once I see these different, steps, what you're doing is you're not starting from here. You're actually going back about 6 or 7 stairs, because if I clean this up, then these stairs actually start cleaning up by themselves. It's called entrainment. And so the heavy metals, all the different types of contaminants, washing, like we talked about, what's the easiest thing that people can do is hydrate themselves with mineralized water. Hydrate themselves with the carrier of what we call life. And what do you put in water? Well, you can do it many different ways. Drink straight distilled water, which is dry water, which will take out contaminants. Or I take the dry water and I add 80 different ionic minerals to it. I put silica in there, or I add certain types of new fuels that I know that are not contaminated. Because once you start getting contamination out of your system, the last thing you want to do is put it back in, because if not, your parasites come right up to the level that you have contained your contamination. So your job is to lose contaminants, rehydrate your system, and really learn where they're coming in your household. Shower to chlorinator, everybody needs one. Okay? A steam distiller. I also have an alkaline water machine too that I use, which is very effective. Just got to learn how to use it.
So the reality is we'll always be modifying the terrain, because
to the terrain, and remember, we have like a piano over there, and the piano has all these different octaves. If you live in this octaves, the parasites can't get to you. So how do we play in this octave? The octave of the piano, that high pitch, da 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 da, versus da 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 da, da da da, and down on the low pitches. So what do? You remove the contaminants that basically are the orchestration of the low contaminant vibrations, which are all different types of contaminants, and anything else that's basically dysfunctional to this higher tone up here. If anything lives up in the higher tones, then they're your friends. They're not really the parasites. If they are, they're in there, but they're not active. There's no power. Okay, look at Myra, 8 days water fasting. Larry, 14. Average, you did what, 8, 7, 5.
I did way longer than I did.
Okay, but what you've done is you shrank down everybody's fuel supply, and now you're in power. But it's hard doing those days to shrink everybody down, because they're complaining inside you, manipulating your nervous system to be able to say, Mama, feed me, please. Okay, so.
Okay, so I don't know if you had any books that you recommended, like just 1 or 2, if somebody wanted to get on the right path. I know you're writing a book now.
Writing a sort of like terrain modification for dummies. Because this is a little, not difficult, it's just complex. But remember, you are a complex organism, so don't think lightly. But then again, don't get overloaded to say, I'm too stupid, or I can't deal with it. No, you need to chip at it away, like learning Spanish or learning mathematics, or you coming here. You came here, you didn't really, know our system here, but you do now. You flow it out and actually enhance it. Why? It's because you say, hey, you need to do this and do this. It's because you're looking at it from different angles, which is perfect. So not only are you learning things like I do, but what I do is I try to go ahead and see if I can make them better.
Yeah.
And if I do, then most likely I can take something out of my world and make space.
So until your book comes out, is there any
Yeah,
that come to your mind? I know you've
There's
got
so many good books,
thousands
depending
of
on what
them.
area you want to look at. You want to look into spirituality. The New Earth is really good for people to open up their mind with Eckhart Tolle's book, and listen to the chapters. Maybe go through the whole, and just in your bathroom
Yeah,
while
that
if you're a
is
guy,
fine.
you're shaving, whatever it is you're doing, whatever. Listen to it. And just open up your mind to that area, because you're going to open up your mind. You have to fill it metaphysically a little bit before your metaphysical mind, which is very powerful, metaphysical, it's behind physical, okay? So you can actually get the discipline now to be able to want to become more conscious, because you know the key to your consciousness or your awareness is your body, is a temple. And these two temples right here control, the two temples here, control this body temple. So one of our important things is to make sure that this temple up here actually sees what it needs to do versus the body telling it what it needs to do. It's okay. Did it say low battery? It may not be recording.
So we're on our way out.
No, it may not be recording. You got to press low battery. If not, it'll stop it. There you go. Is it recording again?
Also, we
Yeah, so 2 more minutes. We'll close it. Let me see for a second. I'll have to fix that. Oh, it is working. Okay. There we go. Reality show.
It is. It certainly is.
It's
Okay.
live.
Well, I think we're running out of time now, but I just wanted to really quickly go over what you eat during the day, because a lot of people have asked it. I saw a lot of people asking online, and that beautiful couple that came yesterday were asking me as well. And I said to them, he doesn't eat during the day is the answer. And I think often people get a bit confused because you put out so much information, great recipes and food, but what do you actually eat? You don't eat during the day. You have your liquids.
I'm on a ketogenic more diet.
Okay.
80% of my fuel source, which is high potency fuel or oils. I have about 15% or so proteins, sometimes 70% oils, 20% proteins or so, but it's mostly fats. And then I have very small amount of carbs, which are sugars or processed foods.
So you eat a high raw content, but you're not 100% raw
No,
vegan.
no. I'm actually not vegan at all.
Okay, because a lot of people think you are.
Yeah, no, what I do is I don't kill anything with the face. I don't want to cause any harm on the system here. I raise my own fertile chickens.
Yeah.
I do have raw cheese. I think it's very beneficial for people, especially in transition. And the probiotics, remember, your gut wall bacteria, as long as you can constantly, you're not going to eat pasteurized cheese because it's just a bunch of glue. But putting things in your system that can help your system regenerate and or keep it moving is what you're doing in transition. Because you get off a fuel of flesh, you got to switch your fuel. So it took me years to be able to wean myself down. And I found out, if I have 2 meals a day, I'm sluggish. And so I have my breakfast tea in the morning. I have a variety of different liquids. And if I do have a smoothie, I only have, like I had this morning, a couple sips of Dr. Mari's just to go ahead and taste it. And it was so good. And once I have one flavor, though, it's a problem because I want more.
Yeah.
So as long as I don't tempt myself with any food, and if I am hungry, remember, I drink 30 sips of water at least.
So the answer is it's liquids all day, liquids of vitality, and you can find that information anywhere. And then you have a combination of things at night time.
Oh, I have a smorgasbord
Yeah,
at
you're
night.
relatively quite easy on yourself at night time. You can
I have as much as I
some
want.
eggs cooked
I
in
have.
a special way.
I always have something cooked
yes.
a little bit, just because it feeds my
that
emotional
little bit
body.
of emotional food, and it's something nice and raw, lots of sauces,
Big
spices.
salads.
Yeah.
I make my salad dressings, which are my superfood salad dressings, and I eat by myself most of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't cut up the lettuce because it loses its energy. I just take the lettuce, sort
And
of
just-
put it in my salad dressing
Yeah.
and eat it. And I sit on the floor like I'm sitting now, and I watch an hour's worth of television either something to learn, but then again, something basically that's very simple in my mind is to laugh or different, because I have to switch gears there and not be in this realm. So it's a smart thing over time for you to have transition, because if you're really trying to get healthy, you're really wanting to cut your calories down, and the calories you want to cut down are I call them dummy calories, sugar calories. So it takes about a few years for you to think that you can get down to a meal a day. Okay, so you just slowly make it to 2 meals a day first. Have your breakfast, tea in the morning, skip lunch, try to do liquids until noon. And then when you move up a step, try to do liquids till 3. Okay? Yeah. And then if you can, try to do liquids. I don't even eat until 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's answered, I think, a lot of people have asked that question, and we're out of time.
No, we're out of time.
I just want to say thank you to you for opening up your home and your heart to me. It's been absolutely fabulous. Thank you, Dr. Mari, also. You've been amazing, both of you, beautiful people. Thank you. And I don't think it's goodbye, because I'm sure I'll be back.
You know, I've really had a good time with we have lots of interns, different people all the time, but it's sometimes babysitting more than it is helping and adding to the program versus, trying to find out, going, oh my gosh. So she's been such a joy to really have here. Here she goes. Here comes Dr. Mari. She has.
We love her.
Everybody smells so good. Everyone's got essential oils.
Thanks,
no stinky BO or nothing. Why? Because we're on good diets.
We were just talking about that the other day. We're like, we don't stink. We don't stink at all.
I haven't used underarm deodorant in 5 years, and there's no reason. But if I smelled, I couldn't. These are all, like I said, all the protocols you're getting at Earth Academy are all things that all of us go through, and we're just sort of like throwing tidbits of like information for you to not crawl up the stairs, at least walk up the stairs. It's a little easier than trying to figure it out yourself. And if you want to figure it out yourself, all power to you. But it is nice to have a guide when you're getting shown around town. So.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.
Aloha.
Everybody.
Important reminder. All information and ideas are for informational purposes only and are in no way intended as medical advice or as a substitute for medical counseling. Earthshift Products, Dr. Robert Cassar, all of their partners, affiliates, and subsidiaries will not be held accountable for the use or misuse of the information presented therein. This information is not intended as medical advice. The authors, publishers, and speakers of this work are not medical doctors and do not recommend the use of mineral-deficient foods, drugs, or medicines to achieve beauty and to alleviate health challenges. Because there is always some risk involved, all persons involved with the development and distribution of this information are not responsible for any adverse effects or consequences of any kind resulting from the use or misuse of any suggestions or procedures described on our website or Earthshift Live radio talk show or therein.